you're being judged by like 1,000 people in real time every night. So like you're saying about the newscaster putting on the smile, it's like no matter what's going on in their life, like on film, it is a little bit easier to separate it and be like, here's 30 seconds or a minute take, and you just put up the energy. But this is real time. It's 2.5 hours of acting like an idiot and like 110% just sort of joy or whatever you're gonna do, or all that energy. And it's exhausting, and when there's people asleep or people just scowling at you.
I imagine the Times Square crowd might get you a mix of
viewers. And I can't blame them, like I'll see a family asleep in the front row, and I'm just like, well, they're from out of town, they've been shopping all day, the parents probably had something to drink at dinner. This is just a warm, dark room. And
I always wonder how much you can see from the stage. Like, can you
really
see people's faces?
I'm really bad. I'm a very shallow actor. I am just not always. There's about like 50% audience in me, so I'm looking at as many people as I can and sort of checking them all out. You can see probably very well the first 5 rows.
Okay.
You could, because we'll go backstage. We'll be like, you see that guy? You see the people 3rd row, stage right, orchestra left. Yeah. We'll
What's
talk
the weirdest thing you've ever seen and then gone backstage and
discussed?
discussed?
Death of a Salesman. It was fucking bizarre. Because I had a smaller part, and so I was only really out there for one moment of really my big scene was with Philip Seymour Hoffman. I was Bernard, and it's this really heavy scene where I tell him my side of this story about his son and what went wrong. And I looked down, and I was on stage right, so I really had a section of the audience that I'd be able to see very well every night, and I'd always check them out, even though Philip Seymour Hoffman's yelling in my face. I'm just like, who's that guy? Any cute girls? Stuff like that. And then there was a dude that was wearing a hoodie, like a very specific hoodie from a place in Venice, a shop in Venice called Aviator Nation. And now I guess they're all over, but this was, at the time, there was only a few stores, and they were all in LA. One of them was on my street in Venice, Abbot Kinney, the store Aviator Nation, and he was wearing, they're all different hoodies, but he was wearing the exact same one I had, and he was right there in like the 3rd row, just kind of looking up at me, and that was really bizarre. That was very bizarre. Other times, the funny, like, there was one woman the other night, and I told Rose Byrne, it was toward the end of the play, and everyone, it's a happy ending, and we kiss, and we're hugging, and there's this woman in the audience just like, and she's old, and she looks like, what's Cruella? What's the 101 Dalmatians?
Yeah, Cruella de Vil.
Cruella de Vil, like, she's crazy, big, white, permed, or whatever hair, big makeup, like bizarre, like red, purple sort of eye, whatever you call it, blush and whatnot, and then passed out, just like dead. And I was like, do you see the dead woman in the audience? Just whispered that to her.
You guys should be taking pictures from behind stage somehow and posting on Instagram. I feel like that'd be a new version of some sort of like Broadway selfie, but like not a selfie.
Cool. That would be cool. I don't know if I could pull that off.
They're very big with no cell phones in there.
Yeah, especially on stage, right? I once thought I walked out to Willie Loman's funeral with my cell phone in the pocket at the end of Death of a Salesman. I came back after the show and couldn't find my phone, and I'd already changed, and I was like, holy shit, did I walk on stage in the most serious scene in the play with my fucking cell phone, and what if it had gone off?
That might be a first.
I'm sure I would never work here again. And luckily we found out it was like in the green room, but there was this moment of panic where my costumer and I were like, oh my God, I think you left it in the suit. Like, you must have been on stage with your cell phone. Anyway.
An unforgettable performance.
Oh man, it would have been. I would have probably not, I don't even know. I don't want to think about it. It's very scary.
All right, so Murder of a Cat. I'm actually surprised I saw this because I love horror movies. Like Cabin in the Woods makes me so happy.
I was going to say, like, I'm surprised I would see such a ridiculous
I can't handle bad things happening to animals.
Yeah.
Like, even when it's a comedy, I was like terrified of just seeing, because I watched the trailer, and I'm like, how long am I going to have to look at this cat with the arrow in it?
Yeah. I was happy to see the cat go. He was very hard to work with. It's not scary.
No, I was fine, especially because it was his whole mission to like avenge his cat. That made me happy.
Yeah. It's and also it's the cat, the dead cat it's pretty stuffed animal, right?
I figured.
It's stuffed. Okay.
That's always better.
Yeah. No, it's It is. It's a great title, and I'm surprised more and more because I shouldn't be, I guess. But people when they hear the title and they think, God, that's really extreme. That's awful, you know. And my first impression was, oh, that's hilarious, you know.
The title itself.
The title, yeah. I thought, oh, this is great. But yeah, no, it's a super weird, original, clever script, and I think. You know, I think we did a really. It's strange because people say like a movie has like 3 different parts or versions of it. There's the screenplay, there's the photography, the actual shooting of it, and then the editing of it. And the nature of independent movies, and having a smaller budget and being at this sort of the will of locations and weather and should I answer that?
At least turn yourself on.
Should I? No, but with independent movies, that's really true. You really are at the sort of the mercy of the nature of what happens that day. And so the script was originally so kind of clever and bizarre and layered, and then the shooting of it was we honored it as much as we could, but then at the same time so many different things came into play. And so what I think you finally see is sort of this like wonderfully colorful but also dark in storytelling but colorful in scenery and sort of a really diverse cast, and it's sort of this kind of incredibly bizarre, funny film. So to me, when I hear someone say like, "Oh God, scary movie," I'm like, "What?" Like, no, oh my God, it's like the craziest, weirdest movie.
No, it's good fun.
Yeah,
I was going to ask what your first impression of the script was, because so much of what this movie is to me came through your performance, like a very physical performance.
Yeah.
The looks on your face, the tone, the pace, the music.
Yeah.
Can you pick that out in the script at all?
Yeah, that's funny. The music. Yeah, I never. Well, the script. No, what I saw in the script. First of all, I thought the script was amazing. Bob and Christian are amazing, and I thought the script was really incredible, really smart, really funny. Nothing like and not anything I'd read before. You know what I mean? It obviously had this sort of noir tone to it. You could pick up on that. The kind of quirkiness of the characters in the small town. I mean, people mention Little Miss Sunshine, but I think that's kind of a go-to, just sort of like a go-to comparison.
I read that quite a few times when I was prepping for this, and I'm like, I don't know if I'd make that comparison.
Yeah,
but I kind of get it.
I think it's just, I don't know. It seems like this easy comparison you make of a independent movie or like a quirky comedy. I'm not totally sure, but to me, it just felt very original and. And my chief concern, was obviously the character of Clinton, and figuring out, who he was, and to me, he seems like he could be so unappealing, and I kind of liked that. I kind of wanted to embrace that, and I talked to the writers a lot about it, and they're one of their biggest inspirations was Confederacy of Dunces, Ignatius Reilly, who is not an appealing character, and so we all thought that was funny, and then you get there on the day and you start shooting scenes, and then all of a sudden you realize, this guy's really unlikable, and like maybe we have to dial it back, or maybe we need to figure out some kind of sensitivity or find ways to sort of bring the audience in and root for this guy. And because I find him to be this kind of elitist and snob without any good reason of being so, you know what I mean? That he's almost like misanthropic, and so what's likable about that? But, we sort of decided anyone that's passionate about something, there's something appealing about that. And obviously, you're going to root for a guy whose cat has been murdered, but I do think there's something, like a bad guy is charming because they're just so bad, or they just are, so good at maybe what they do, or because they care so much. I think we recognize or relate to passion, and so Clinton is definitely a passionate guy. So that helped me out, sort of stay the course with what I wanted and what I originally saw in the character is kind of a crazy sort of stubborn, kid or overgrown kid, who's seeking revenge, you know what I mean?
The end for me was definitely the cat thing. Like, even though I wouldn't go about it quite the same way, the fact that he cared so much to put all that effort into it, I'm like, I get it. It's not totally crazy, but like, a little crazy about it.
Yeah, well, you sort of meet the guy, and it's sort of like raised eyebrows. You're like, who is this dude? This is bizarre. And yeah, I think his sort of pursuit or his frustration with how the world doesn't seem to care, because I think we can all relate to that, even if we're not like pet lovers. It's your best friend, simple as that. And very literally with Clinton.
Yeah.
I mean, he has no friends, and he lives with his mom, and they're not exactly friends.
Did you ever do backstory on him, just like to see like why he became this person?
There's a brief moment where they talk about his father and stuff, and in general, I'm not so detailed about backstory, but I do like to sort of have a vague understanding or generalized sort of history of a person. And the father leaving, it wasn't necessarily even that young of an age, he was still somewhat of a young teen, so it's a somewhat developed age that this trauma happens to him, not to take it too seriously. It's a very funny movie, but it's a sort of a harder thing to recover from. It's not something that's necessarily so past, and I think this state of arrested development, where he still is this teenager running around in tighty whities, I think that's something that's sort of rooted in him, and that it was hard for him to make friends, and it sort of stemmed from there. But I do like the idea of him being an elitist, without any good reason, like that Ignatius Riley character, that he doesn't want friends. He kind of goes outside and meets people and thinks less of them. And I do think his desire to be a detective, his alter ego, Doghouse Riley, this sort of noir detective, kind of makes him anachronistic, that he's sort of out of time, or in the wrong place, wrong time. And that in that sense, he's not gonna get along with kids, the average kid his age, you know what I mean? They're not gonna have the same interests. And but that doesn't hurt his feelings. That just sort of emboldens him. That just makes his situation worse, because he kind of reaffirms what idiots everyone else is.
I really appreciated the way you transformed him too, because in a lot of comedies we see it where, like the geeky looking character gets the cool haircut, and then all of a sudden they're like attracting everybody and everything is right. But it's like it does go right for you in this movie, but not entirely. You still hold on to just about everything you just described.
Yeah, good. I wonder. I'm so bad at articulating these things. Sorry, I just ramble on. But I wondered that, because it's a wig, we weren't able to shoot.
It looked a little like your hair in Cabin in the Woods, so I'm like, maybe he could just do that.
Really? Yeah. Well, that's funny. No, in a perfect world, this is what I meant sort of earlier. It's like you have a script, you shoot it, and then you edit it. In a perfect world, I would have grown my hair out and we would have cut it, but we couldn't do that based on actors' schedules. And so we had to come up with a wig sort of the last second. Let me get that. No, and we had to get the wig, and there were problems with the wig, but it's no one's fault. It's just the nature of the quick shoot. Anyway, so I was really concerned that when that wig came off and all of a sudden I had, his cool hair, whatever is, that the character that it would be this split, this unnatural split, and that it would not be this sort of consistent. And I don't know, thankfully it sounds like you bought it.
No, I definitely bought that.
Okay, yeah, because he is still this, and it's a funny thing with wardrobe and makeup or wigs. When you put that stuff on, the character comes to life. Like the voice becomes easier to find, the physicality, it all kind of comes into place when you put on every, little piece, And so to lose something like that, it was hard for me to tell sometimes if I'm being consistent, because now I'm in the cool suit with the cool hair, and is this the same person? And I think for the most part I found it, but it is like a pitfall, or it's an easy trap, and I think perhaps I maybe would try and overreach or try harder to make him unappealing and more of sort of stubborn or elitist and all those things I mentioned, to sort of continue that, because you always have your editing as your friend. If it goes too far, you can pull it back. But I liked him, to amping up the crazy and the ridiculous, when the hair goes, so to keep that character there and fresh and be able to mold it.
How was it for you dealing with all those production challenges? Because like you already mentioned locations, then I'm sure with this cast, the scheduling was insane, and then you know you have issues that pop up out of nowhere too.
Yeah, it is. It is like every day is like this crazy battle, you know, and all these new challenges. But I mean, it draws people together. I mean, you learn to love or hate each other before like the first shot of the day. You know what I mean? It really does get that way, and on independent, on big movies, I guess too. But you know, as an actor, sometimes you don't really know. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? There's more going on. Whereas in a smaller film, you guys get together and you shoot, and you have to all discuss and collaborate. So there were a lot of we would have these long rehearsals where we really have to sort of figure out the script based on, well, this location is, you know, different than what we imagined it to be, or now that we're here, does this story point really make sense, and things like that. So we did have you know, visually, like you know, I always imagined that it would you know, be a tri-state area kind of gray sky movie, you know, and then we're in LA, you know, and so that the just sunny skies, blue sky, that immediately sort of is changes the tone, you'd think, but that's, you know, you want to stay truthful to the story. And that comes down to the actors, really. But so I don't know. I'm rambling, but there are a number of challenges. But I think, you know, what's nice, I think we pulled it off. You know, we were always having so much fun, and in that sense, you knew that we were honoring the story because it's such a fun script. So, you know, when we made ourselves laugh, you know, we knew we were okay.